Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Berkshire Football Stories podcast. That started well. My name is Tom Canning, and we are live today. You can get in touch with the show in the comments on Facebook and YouTube, or you can email us direct at podcast@footballinberkshire.co.uk. We should have some people dropping in later as part of our phone-in. That could go well, that could go badly, who knows? But right now, I am joined by Neil Maskell of Maidenhead United and Dan Walkley of Tadley Caliva. Good morning, chaps.
Morning.
Good morning.
Excellent. It's both working. We did test all of this beforehand, so it's all good to go. How are you both? All well? Sorry, Neil, that's really offensive to you, isn't it?
I'll give you a clue. I watched last night's National League game on live stream rather than in person for a change. But I'm still here. I'm still clinging on.
Excellent. Having been to Oldham, I think it's fair to say that that's probably better than going to Oldham. So,
that's very harsh. Very harsh. Former Premier League ground.
True. That's true. And one of the, it's also probably a ground that I'd very much enjoy. So I do apologise.
Are you climbing down now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, we do get an awful lot of Oldham fans listening to this podcast. So
exactly.
We want to defend them, offend them. So, Dan, and how are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you. Very well.
I want to say it's been quite a week for Tadley, but I have no idea. How's it been for Tadley?
No, it's been good. We've got no midweek fixture this week. We won on Saturday. Nice narrow victory, but a clean sheet and 3 points is all that matters. So yeah, it's been good.
Well, it's been quite a big FA Cup weekend. We had the third qualifying round. We had the fourth qualifying round draw on Monday. Unfortunately, in the third qualifying round, we lost Hungerford Town. They were well and truly beaten by Torquay United. I have experience going to Torquay United and getting well and truly beaten by the team. It was a Bracknell Town FA Youth Cup tie, and I think that was 5-0 or 4-0. Anyway, it was a nil on our side of things. But we did have Bracknell Town went through. They went through with a couple of last-minute penalties. I think that was a case of and relax or and breathe either way. That was one. I don't think they've got the greatest of records against Poole Town either. So they beat them 3-1 late on. Nana Owusu with one of the penalties and substitute Ben Harris with the other. Neil, you might be best placed to tell me anything about Nana Owusu. He's not a player I'm familiar with before, but it looks like he's played for Dulwich Hamlet and a few of those. Is he someone you know about?
Yes, he played for Maidenhead.
Oh, did he? Oh, sorry. Right.
We had Nana. He played 1 or 2 seasons for us, our first season in the National League. He did okay. Bit of a fringe player. At the time, he had Sam Barrett and Harry Pritchard for kind of rivalry, as it were, on the wing position. So he was a bit of a bit part player, but he contributed with a few good goals. And he left us at the end of the 2018-19 season. He's dipped down the leagues a little bit, but seems to have found a niche. And I was really pleased to see his name pop up for Bracknell.
He does seem to be one of the players that they've managed to bring in during the summer that's really done very well, which is always obviously great to see. So that was a great result for Bracknell. They are back in the fourth qualifying round, and I think it's for the. Now, I did check these because I missed one out, and there's a Cheltenham Town game that I missed out earlier on. So I think this is the 6th time they've reached the fourth qualifying round. They've won 2 of them. Obviously, the big one being last season against Banbury. No, not. If I got that right, Banbury United.
Yeah.
Which was one of those games where. I think a lot went on off the pitch, and I don't think we ever really got any kind of good things out of that one. So, where was I going with this? Right, yes. So FA Cup, Slough Town. Then we move on to Slough Town. Now, I think there were a little. The fans were feeling quite lucky to still be in the hat after their 0-0 draw with Salisbury on Saturday. However, they came through on Tuesday night in the replay and I think, let's say, comprehensively beat Salisbury 3-0. Johnny Goddard got 2. I didn't see who got the other one, but that's a comprehensive result. And Dan, I know you keep an eye on Slough a little bit to see how they're going. That's obviously they've really picked up after a slow start to the season.
Yeah, and last night's result was, like you say, a comprehensive one, especially after many of the fans thinking on Saturday probably could have gone out to Salisbury. Obviously not an easy place to go. I know Salisbury haven't really hit the heights that they are used to, but they're going well in their league, and the 3-0 win yesterday obviously put Slough through to an away tie against Ebbsfleet from the National League, so that's going to be another tough tie for them. But probably one they could get through, to be honest. There has been signs from Slough this year of some positivity of them climbing up the league. There has been some results which maybe you would have thought they should have won. But yeah, I don't see any reason why they can't go to Ebbsfleet and get a result, or at least a draw to bring them back to Arbor Park.
Cheers, Dan. Yes, that would seem like a reasonable way to go. I mean, Slough have done very well in the FA Cup in recent seasons. I did say that Bracknell Town are the current Berkshire FA Cup kings, and I think that's fair. Would you agree, both of you?
Based on last year, so. I'd probably say so.
Yeah,
right. We've got Sorry, Neil. I'll cut you off there.
Yeah, they had a great run last year, and they played really well on the night, didn't they, against Ipswich? That was a really enjoyable. One of my most enjoyable games, I think. One of my most enjoyable nights out last year. They seem to. I realise there's a few rumblings, perhaps in the background this season. They've not started fantastically, but they always seem to pull something out of a season, don't they? Even when they're not getting promoted in recent years, it's a cup run instead. Maybe it's a cup season for them this year.
Yeah, which wouldn't be the end of the world, would it? Right, we've got our first guest, and it is Andrew Batt of Wokingham and Embrook. Andrew, hello.
Hi.
Quite good. You're on. You've done your hair for the occasion, unlike myself. Hey, last night Wokingham and Embrook played Sandhurst Town. Tell us a little bit about that one.
I wish I could, but I wasn't there.
Oh,
unfortunately. The day job meant that I couldn't actually get there. So it's the first one I've missed for quite a long time, but I understand they played pretty well. Shame, given the, let's say, the history between Wokingham and Sandhurst. Shame that we couldn't get something out of it. But I think Jake Wood scored.
Oh, he seems to have frozen there for a moment.
Which would have been great for him, being ex-Sandhurst as well. Yeah, sad to have not been there, but judging by the reports that I've seen, we played pretty well.
Well, that was a 4-3 defeat in the Berks and Bucks Senior Cup, which is not the end of the world. Sandhurst did have a couple of players, a couple of Bracknell Town players you perhaps consider first team players. They had Ben Harris, Max Herbert. Just looking through the team sheet, so not unsurprising that it was a Sandhurst win. Obviously. It's a tough place to go, but Sandhurst haven't had the greatest of starts. So maybe I'll just flip to Dan on this one, because the Sandhurst are in the same division as Tadley. They haven't had the greatest of starts to the season, have they? I don't think, Sandhurst.
No, the first few opening games they really struggled. They were getting beat quite convincingly, but just I think it was last weekend, they hosted Jersey, who I think they raced to a 4-2. I think Jersey were 4-2 up with about 3-4 minutes to go, and Sandhurst managed to pull it back to 4-all. So that's going to give them major confidence going into the league games again this weekend. And obviously last night's result as well, getting a win, albeit with a few Bracknell first team players in there. But they've kind of tightened up their results. The defeats have been more narrow than they were at the beginning of the season. So I don't see Sandhurst being in danger of being relegated come the end of the season. I think there's teams below them that they will beat, especially at Bottom Meadow. But yeah, we'll just have to see how they get on. They look like they're progressing well. So
yeah,
I think the next few months, especially before the winter break, we're bound to have a few weekends of non-football over winter. So I think if they can pick up some results between then and now and then, I think they'll be okay.
Well, let's throw it back to Wokingham and Embrook. Andrew, what's the mood around the camp? I mean, it seems like Wokingham have had a solid start to the season. Obviously, the last couple of results maybe have gone the other way, but and perhaps they've gone the other way just going through the results since that 5-1 win against Wembley. But otherwise, it feels like a generally positive start to the season.
Yeah, I mean the squad is gelling well, as you'd expect. Our performances are very hit and miss, as you say. It's very much the proverbial roller coaster. We don't know which team's going to turn up. We were disappointed to lose at Wantage in the Vase. That was one that we probably should have won. Certainly on paper, Wantage aren't having a good season. They were us and them, two teams that let's be honest, pretty poor, not going to win the cup. Would have been nice to have had a cup run. But we won convincingly at Wembley. We don't know how good Wembley are. And then we last Saturday against Chalfont, that's probably one that we should have won. We had the chances, but as a Sumo supporter, you never know which team's going to turn up at the moment.
And just to throw it to the women's side of things, that you must be really pleased with how the team has started off in the development. It's obviously we've spoken about this before, you and I off air, and you've had quite a solid. They've had a solid start, but there's players there coming back to it after a long time out. There's players that have never played before, so it must be quite pleased with how that started.
Absolutely, I've been fortunate to see all of their league games so far. This is the first season back in the Thames Valley Counties Women's Development League. First time for a couple of years that Woking and Edinburgh have had a ladies team. Doing really well. I mean, we won last Sunday against Burfield. We played Burfield pre-season and lost heavily to them. Granted, Burfield probably had a few of their first team players playing, but I'm seeing the progression week to week. They're getting better. They're obviously playing more games together. And this weekend we are at Arborfield. That's another team that we played pre-season. So it'll be good to see how far they have progressed in such a short time. And I think the other thing as well, playing the home games at Lowther, Lowther Road, which is really good. Previously, the women's team played at Embrook School, which obviously distances themselves a little bit from the club, but now they've got the club. We've had a few men's supporters come down. The first match back, there were a few mascots as well, so we're trying to make it into an occasion, an event, and it's going to be a tough season, but the girls are playing really, really well. Yeah.
Cheers, Andrew. Thank you very much for coming on. We'll say goodbye for now, if that's okay. I've got somebody else to bring in, so we'll speak to you soon, mate. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Andrew.
Dan and Neil, do feel free to jump in with any questions you want. Our next guest is Jordan Blake, who is the Woodley United manager. Hello, Jordan.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Very well, very well. Thanks for coming on.
Good. No worries.
Good to see you. I guess I wanted to just start with what have ours run so far?
Yeah, so far, I think it's we've won 1-2 in the Vase so far. So the furthest in Woodley's history, which is fantastic. And I think it's credit to the guys behind the scenes. I think obviously we get kind of the plaudits on the pitch, but I think there's been a lot of good stuff happened over the summer. To kind of improve the environment for the players, etc., to make it, I guess, even better than it's been previously. So we're just kind of seeing that rewards at the moment, but. Yeah, we look forward to Virginia Water, I think, the end of the month, the 21st. So it'll be a tough test, but it's all or nothing, really. We've got nothing to lose at the end of the day,
Definitely.
And then we go and, see what we can do that afternoon.
I saw Virginia Water a couple of weeks ago, obviously just before they changed their manager, and they are good. They are. Well, you'll have seen them already, I'm sure. But
I've watched a couple of videos on them already, so I'll start to put some plans in place. But, it'll be a tough afternoon for us, there's no doubt about that. But, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I think it's a good challenge because, some of our boys want to play higher at some point in their career. So I think it's a good challenge to play against a team that I would imagine will be in the playoffs this season, or there or thereabouts in the playoffs at step 5. So, it's a great challenge for us.
Neil, you had a question.
Yeah, a very general one. Jordan, good morning. I can speak as a bit of a occasional Woodley sort of watcher. One of my local teams, good club, a lot of time for Mark Rosier. Really good to see how well you're doing this season. Obviously, lots of games in hand now.
Yeah.
To squeeze in, one of which is on Tuesday, so that might be my first visit of the season. I guess looking through your squads, I mean, there's lots of familiar names to me there in terms of players that you've had. You know, it doesn't seem like a huge turnover of players on that basis. Lots of familiar names that I've seen play for you before in recent seasons for a team that's struggled in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, a little bit at times. Where's the improvement come from? What have you done?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, you know, I got the job, you know, not this summer, the summer before. So I've been in the job about 18 months nearly. And I think, you know, I always sort of look at it and think in 2-year cycles. You kind of get a group together and then kind of keep them together. And then in the second season, give you a real chance and actually, you know, kicking on and, you know, being more successful. So I think that's probably what it's come from. You know, I've managed to kind of work very closely with some of my network in terms of like Simon Johnson at Reading City. He's given me a couple of players that probably aren't ready for that level yet, you know, that need to just play week in, week out. So Connor Richardson's one of them, Connor Suckling, those two have been on fire this season so far. And then kind of, you know, people that I know around the local area in Reading. But I think, kind of keeping the group together, you know, I look at when I got the job, I think there's only 2 or 3 players left from that season before I joined. So, you know, we've had a massive turnover. And then, you know, I added 2 or 3 more in the summer. And then the group's really, really settled. You know, we've got a great group in terms of on and off the pitch. We all get along. You know, there's no bad eggs, if you want, or anything like that. So, you know, it's been really, really enjoyable. And, you know, the players are buying into what we're trying to do across the football club, which is great.
That's good work. Well done. I hope it continues. I hope I can get down Tuesday and
absolutely. Good to
see what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'd be great to see you.
Jordan, I know the ground at the Rivermore or Scowers Lane, as it will always be to me, and I'm sure it probably is to you as well. That's improved. Someone was saying the other day. I was talking to someone the other day. I think it was one of the Windsor fans. I was watching Windsor against Burfield, and I said, I quite like going down to Scowers Lane, and he looked at me in absolute disgust. And as I talked to him a bit more, it kind of turned that he'd not really been down there in sort of 10 years. Yeah. And it's changed, hasn't it? And I couldn't really put my finger on it, but you're on the ground there. What has changed? And I suppose we're talking more about Reading City here, but as the tenants, you probably have a little bit of a say, or at least you can see what's happened. So what's changed for you? What makes it so much better?
I think the investment on the pitch. I think they've invested a lot of money over the pitch, especially the last couple of years. I think Martin Law, obviously the chairman of Reading City, I think has consciously made an effort to invest in the pitch. I think for both parties. So I'd say that's definitely improved. You know, I think night and day, if you look at probably the pitch to what it was 2 or 3 years ago, you know, it's completely different to what it was. I think even like the home dressing room now, you know, I appreciate you guys probably wouldn't be in the home dressing room, but the home dressing room is, you know, it's, you know, they've really, you know, furnished it really well. They've got everything in there now and actually, you know, just freshen the place up, you know, I think tidy up around the ground, etc. So, I think all in all, I think Martin and the rest of the Reading City, you know, board, etc., are just kind of doing bits slowly but surely. You know, I think that's the way that it seems that they've always done it, and I think it's working. To be honest with you, I think year on year they're trying to grow and develop from that side of things instead of just throwing all the money in the player budget. I think it's more about, you know, where can we improve this off the pitch so that it's sustainable longer term. You know, because as you guys know, and we all know that they have a number of finals at the end of every season, Sunday leagues, etc. So. You know, I think bringing that community element back to Reading City, even more so, probably I should say, is great. You know, and I can definitely see that, and I think, you know, long may it continue. So yeah, you know, brilliant job, Martin, and that's done so far.
Jordan, just before we let you go, because I know Dan's got a short turnaround. I need to ask him a question about the Thames Valley Premier League before he finishes. But what's kind of Woodley's aims for this season? Because obviously last season I think you started a bit like a train. You started, if I remember rightly, you started really well, and I think I saw you guys at Eversley, and it really didn't go so well that particular day. And you kind of you had a lot of players in and out, and that. What's the aim for the rest of this season, and assuming you want to move into next season?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think just you know, to improve, you know, I've always said to the players, I think, you know, if we finished 12th last year, so I think, you know, can we get into the top 10 and, you know, head towards the playoffs? I think that's my ambition as a manager, to try and get us to the playoffs. You know, yes, it's a difficult task. You know, there's a number of teams that have got, you know, quite a lot of money at our level to try and get out of it. So it will be a challenge, you know, considering, you know, Woodley don't have any finances anywhere near some of the teams. So, but my ambition is to get us to the playoffs. You know, that's the ambition. You know, we've had a great run in the Vars, and that's what I said at the start of the season, that I wanted us to get to the first round proper and kind of create that history for the club. So, you know, that's kind of a tick box done already.
Yeah.
But, you know, now can we go on again? And I think as we head into the winter months will be the key thing for me, and that's what I'm trying to get across to the players, etc. So, yeah.
Jordan Blake, thanks very much for your time. Thanks for coming on, and good luck to Woodley for the rest of the season. We'll hopefully see you down there.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye. Oh, that's going well. We've had 2 guests already. I love this. Let's see if anybody else pops on. It's usually after 12 o'clock. So, Dan, I mentioned a Thames Valley Premier League question. We had a really good question. I think it's a really good question. I think it speaks not just to the Thames Valley Premier League, but the rest of football below kind of a certain level. And so this is Jeff from Maidenhead Town. Lots of people will be familiar with Jeff. Jeff says the heavy score lines at local level suggest more teams struggling than ever, with 5 teams folding in the TVPL since August, and now a possible 7-team Division 4, plus 1 Prem club folding and another in doubt. Does this further support the struggles below Step 7? It seems established clubs are now really benefiting, as the setup of 2nd and 3rd teams for the likes of Binfield, Marlow, Penn, Hollyport and Reading City, all probably subsidised by grounds, crowds, first and youth team setups, are harming 1-team clubs who can't compete. Is that, Dan, I've just recently discovered apparently you're also the chairman of Westwood something. What's that? Tell me about that first.
No, not me. I know the manager, the chairman of Westwood Wanderers. Yeah, so I used to go to football with him a fair bit, but I did pose a question to him before I came on, and he did say that he kind of agrees with that statement, that 1-team club, I know they've got 2, they've got reserves, but kind of clubs that aren't affiliated to those that are in higher levels of the non-league pyramid, as you mentioned, Reading City, Binfield under 23s, Reading City under 23s, Marlow under 23s, Hollyport, Taddy Cleaver reserves as well, obviously benefit from us being at Step 5. And I think a lot of it is down to financials and maybe the club support alongside players as well. Reading as a whole, I'd say is obviously quite a massive catchment area, and there's a lot of clubs in and around Step 4 down, all the way down to Thames Valley, Div 1, Div 2, Div 3. So there's obviously a limited number of players for these clubs, and if you're not getting the money in, the crowd in, and the funding, then teams are going to struggle. Obviously, Westwood, as an example, are doing well in the Premier League and in Division 1 as well with their reserves. Same with Reading YMCA, but the standalone clubs, I mean, Raysbury pulled out at the beginning of the season before it started, and now, like you say, SB Phoenix have pulled out of the Premier as well. So it's is that out of the Premier?
I think it's Hurst. I think it's Hurst.
Oh, Hurst. Apologies. So yeah, there obviously is struggles, and I do think most of it is financially. The cost of living's gone up everywhere, which is obviously a knock-on effect to the price of putting games on. And if you're not getting people through the door, I know obviously at Step 7 and below, not many teams charge, but it's the external income. If you've got a clubhouse, if you've got sponsorship, and if you're not getting that, then there are going to be struggles.
I think there's a couple of interesting things that I thought about what Jeff sent in. I think the one thing I do think is that he mentioned subsidised by sort of grounds and crowds and stuff. I'm not sure the crowd part of it. I mean, Dan, you and I go to a lot of low level football. I'm not sure the crowds, the money that crowds are paying really gets too close to helping too much. It probably just covers the first teams. But I generally speaking, I agree with the rest of what Jeff has said. I think though, I was thinking about this as a slightly larger, like a slightly more bigger overview to it, in that it seems like the kind of the professionalization of grassroots and non-league football seems to be getting lower and further down. And what I mean by that is having to have exacting facilities, having sort of the kits, the sponsors, everybody, even just down to the social media posts, everything is becoming more of a kind of, it's not professional, absolutely not, but it's becoming a more sort of professional style. And I wonder if players look at that and they go maybe more towards a sort of an established club as opposed to one that's kind of just popped up. I don't know if that comes into players' heads, but I would imagine that kind of professionalization of lower league football has an effect on that as well. And where and because certainly Maidenhead Town will benefit from playing at Bisham Abbey from the facilities they've got there. And in fact, it's one of the benefits of joining the club that Jeff talks about very, very regularly. So that kind of professionalization of a club, whereas the sort of where you go to kind of have fun with your football is probably still Sunday League, but even that to an extent is becoming a little bit more professional as well. Everybody's doing graphics, everybody's doing signings, everybody's doing all of this stuff, and maybe that's part of it. I just also think in terms of divisions getting smaller, I don't know, I meant to do some research on this just before we did it, but I don't know if there is many competitions that have at Step 7 that have 4 divisions like the Thames Valley Premier League does. It's also competing with a newly relaunched East Berks Football League, and you've got a couple of clubs that left for the Hellenic League as well. So it's not like there's not competition for clubs around here either, as well as players. So I don't know. I'm not really sure that answers it. I guess we're just trying to put a couple of points across there. But Dan, I'll let you have the final word on that. Do you, as you're kind of do you sort of play at that level as well? So how does it affect you directly?
Yeah. So I think touch on the professionalism side of it, as you were mentioning, it is becoming, like you said, you're looking on social media, and pretty much every club now has that presence online. I personally, for me, it was always Tadley. Obviously, we're one club town. We do have Silchester and Aldermaston obviously close, but just growing up, that's all I've known. So, but if you're looking in terms of, let's use Reading as an example again, where you do have a lot of clubs to choose from in quite a small area, I do think it sways players because players that want to move up the levels, especially younger players, if their name is being exposed on social media, if their clips of their games are being exposed on social media, and they're playing well, then it can obviously catch the eye of managers at Step 6 at the higher levels of Step 7. So I do think that would sway it in terms of the Premier Divisions in Step 7. Moving further down, I just do think it is down to maybe, I don't know if the leagues or the FA expecting more from that kind of the ground grading, the amount of volunteers. There's only so much people can do with their time, and I think that is one of the main reasons.
Cheers, Dan. I know you have got to go, so I will.
Yeah, apologies.
But no, that's all right. That's all right. We'll hold on to our West Berks chat for another time. So thanks for joining us, Dan. Appreciate it, mate.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Cheers, Dan.
Neil, it's just you and me now holding the fort.
Indeed.
So you were going to. Should we go back to the FA Cup?
Of course.
We obviously had. We've got 2 sides through. We've got Maidenhead United through, and perhaps you can talk to us a little bit about Maidenhead United's efforts in the FA Cup in recent seasons. But we're also going to talk a bit about Maidenhead's weekend as well, which was rather good. But you know a bit about Slough's opposition, Ebbsfleet United, and I believe you know a bit about Salisbury as well. So do you want to talk us through Ebbsfleet first?
Ebbsfleet first, yeah. For Maidenhead fans, a bit of Hobson's choice there. Slough or their old rivals, Ebbsfleet to win. No, that should be a really good game. And look, Slough got a good chance there. Ebbsfleet, we haven't played yet this season. They're back in the division after a few years out. But looking at their recent form, Tom, they shipped 5 last night against Eastleigh side that's a bit of a curate's egg, really, in our division. They shipped 6 at a very good Altrincham side a couple of weeks back. Their form's not great. It could be a really good time for Slough to play them. So, they can go there with pressure off, an away game, and I think they've got a really good chance on that one.
And what about Salisbury?
Salisbury have gone by the wayside, haven't they? It's you're referring to Dagenham for Bracknell. That's who you mean, isn't it?
Sorry, yes, sorry. That's no, sorry. I realised what. Yes,
Salisbury are out to Slough, and Bracknell's win against Poole has given them Dagenham, and again the same applies.
If I was hoping to get picked up for a presenting role off the back of this live podcast, it's not going to happen, is it? I am still unemployed. If anybody's listening, you're
not going to get any votes in Oldham after your earlier dig at them, are you? So no. Yeah, that's again, look, on paper, Dagenham should win that, but they're not flying at all. They are struggling. They are one of, unfortunately, only two teams that Maidenhead have managed to get the better of and take 3 points off this year. We beat them 1-0 at York Road at the end of August, and they looked not quite really the Dagenham side, perhaps of the past. That's a really good tie for Bracknell. Okay, again, in theory, you'd rather avoid the step one teams in the fourth qualifying round. Of course you would, but you're at home against a former league club. Dagenham will bring a few spectators. That's going to be a really good tie down there at Bottom Meadow. And again, look, I'm not saying Bracknell will win it, but they've got a chance. Dagenham are not flying, and those are perhaps if you are going to get some sort of giant killing, that's one to look at potentially.
So some real possibilities there for both of our teams, which is really good. Now, Neil, we had a really, really good weekend for Maidenhead United. I can't think of anybody better placed to talk about Maidenhead United than your good self, except maybe Dev. But I don't think we're getting Dev on a podcast anytime soon.
Well, Dev probably, bless him, won't be able to help much with the women's and futsal side of the club. He's got enough to think about. It seems a little odd, doesn't it, talking about good weekends, because last night's game at Oldham was our 10th without a win. All specialists. And last night at Oldham, for the last half an hour, we were on top, and we were they were hanging on there. They're in good form as well. So, but the weekend was a good one as well. As I say, the form's been difficult for the first team, and yesterday's goal against Oldham was only our third in 15 hours of football, which is quite a struggle to watch at times. But the guys aren't shipping a lot of goals at the other end, so we're in games largely. Which you have to be with that sort of struggle in front of goal at the moment. So on Saturday we welcomed Chesterfield. The run then was 8 games without a win and a number of defeats in a row. League leaders, but you've spoken before of a Devonshiring. It wasn't quite a Devonshiring this time. We took the lead against Chesterfield. And we played great. They pulled a goal back with half an hour left, and in that last half an hour, it really could have gone either way. And perhaps in the last 5-10 minutes, it was probably ourselves more likely to win the game. So we're battling away. We're outside the bottom 4 as it stands. It's going to be a long season as usual for us, but. We played really well against Chesterfield overall. They had won their previous 7 games, and they won again last night. I was talking to one of their media people before the game, and he said, as much as he hates coming to Maidenhead United because they've never won there, he felt that if they did win on Saturday, that would be proof of what he thinks, that he's absolutely adamant they're going up. And good luck to them, a good club and a big club at this level. So that was a positive start to my weekend. We also had good results for our 2 brand new futsal teams as well. Our women in Tier 2 got a very credible draw, which was good. And our men have recorded their second win in 3 games. They played Wessex at home at Gunnersbury. They were 2-0 down. and they came back to win that 4-2. It's their first ever season in the top flight of men's futsal in this country. So, to get 2 wins and 1 draw from their first 3 games was great. I was following that via Twitter. Unfortunately, I tend to be double booked with games left, right, and centre. On Sunday, whilst the men were playing in the futsal, the Maidenhead United women were playing the older form of the game, the 11-a-side form of the game, with 2 home matches, which is very difficult to organise and get volunteers for. I'll start with our development team, who played at Hollyport, which is their home ground this season. They played only their 4th ever game in existence, Tom, and won through on penalties for a second time, which was brilliant in the Women's National League Cup. They were 2-0 down against London Seaward, brought it back to 2-2. The resilience of this young group is brilliant. It's almost like they've got no fear because they're a brand new team, and they've done brilliantly to get through there. Meanwhile, over at York Road, I enjoyed watching 9 goals go in. 9 goals in 90 minutes as opposed to 3 in 15 hours was good to watch. Against a side who was struggling in our league, Chelsea. We can't run away from that. That was in a plate competition game. So, yeah, all round a good weekend. I hope I've summed that up well enough. And yesterday for the first team was positive as well. So, hoping for a better month in October.
Fingers crossed. I mean, I saw a couple of the goals, and obviously Imogen Fisher got a couple of goals for the women's first team at the weekend as well. Hopefully, we made a big deal of that. But suddenly trying to get all 9 players on a square graphic to show off, so we had to pick one. But that was obviously a really good and really solid result for them. So fantastic stuff. And what I didn't realise until quite late was that was a cup game. They will still have to play Chelsea in the league. So
we played the Monster League already. So we beat them 5-0 at York Road. We now 9-0. As I say, they're struggling. Talking to their people afterwards, they're out on the limb a little bit as a club. Chelsea, they're in the West Division and they're the furthest southeast in that. It's difficult for recruitment, and they're doing an overnighter for Torquay next week, which shows that's not going to be a club awash with money. And it's interesting, Tom, listening to your conversation with Dan about clubs folding. I think the women's game has real concerns. Even step 4, that made the player and below. We saw a side that we played last year, Lark Hall, were one of the 2 teams relegated. They started their season at step 5, and they've folded, and it is a concern. I guess the availability of players and the long journeys, and I don't really think there's an easy answer to that one.
No, there isn't. There's a certain level of commitment you've got to have to want to play at that level, and when those games are all going on a Sunday afternoon,
Indeed.
That's unhelpful as well. It's the age old problem that we've talked about on this podcast many times, and that's sort of the 2 p.m. Sunday afternoon kickoffs are not really conducive to. They're not helpful to anyone. If you want to watch an FAWSL game, if you want to watch a professional game, and you play, you just can't. So
that's right.
It's an age old problem, and I don't really see anybody doing anything about it at the moment. So
no, I don't see where we go from that one, and
no.
It's very difficult, and there's more to it than that as well. So the Maidenhead team, they're not paid any expenses or any wages. We just don't have the infrastructure for that at this stage. So the guys train twice a week at their own time and money to get to training. They travel to the likes of Torquay and Exeter on a Sunday. It is a labour of love.
Yes.
We're not going to be competing at the top end of the division for that reason, because the likes of Exeter and Bournemouth have, which is a great thing. They're investing money in women's football, right? So you can look at that and be envious of it, or admire it. And I do admire that they are investing in women's football. We're not quite in a position to do it. So it is a labour of love, and that is a shame.
It
Because,
is.
you know, women's football in this country is flying, but the answer is money, isn't it? As usual.
Yes, as it always is, and I'm not sure how we get to a point where that changes.
No.
But there we are. Unfortunately, we're not going to solve it on this podcast, which is a shame.
I've never solved
really.
I've never solved any problem in my life, Tom. I just point them out and then sit back.
Sit back and hope someone else sorts it. Well, I mean,
exactly.
Well, let's just talk. We've had a couple of comments from Samuel Lydiard. He's a Hungerford Town fan. I have invited him on. He may pop up, but he said he had some comments about Hungerford. It was always going to be a period of transition, with dropping down to step 3. Recruitment was better in the summer than 2022-23, although results on the road have been poor. I think you can understand results on the road being poor, can't you, Neil? He says would take a playoff place this season, but would be very difficult in such a competitive league. Very disappointing to exit the FA Cup in the manner in which we did over the weekend. I think that Hungerford, were a side.
I saw Danny Robinson's.
Sorry, we're talking over each other there, Neil. Tom. Do you want to go?
Yeah, apologies. Sorry for talking over you there. Saw Danny Robinson's interview after that first half, and I think he was exasperated, wasn't he? They seemed to be in the game for sort of 25 minutes, and then to concede 5. The game's gone, isn't it? And that's such a great trip down for the Hungerford supporters. And again, one of those, perhaps the tie you wouldn't have picked out, in terms of difficulty. So their results seem to be very unpredictable, don't they? It's frustrating for them.
They do, but that is such a tough division. It's such a tough division, the Southern Premier South. You can kind of look at all the teams in there. There's some brilliant teams in there. I mean, Cheshire United are a team that Danny picked out on a podcast with us earlier in the season. But even Bracknell aren't having it all their own way, which is it goes to show how difficult a division it is, because all those teams have got good players. And in a league situation, it's an obvious thing to say, but not everyone can win it, and all of that kind of thing. So. It's a tough division to get out of, and Hungerford they'll have a better this season than last season, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think again that's another club that's been used to success, isn't it? So yes. they've come up to the National South, and their first season they were on the edge of the playoff places, and then they've had some seasons of struggle and some seasons of COVID, as we've all had.
Yeah.
And it's been a gradual kind of step down. Perhaps in league position for them. So there was perhaps a bit more expectation there, and it is hard going down. And with all due respect to Danny, whose track record is great, that's a side that's been used to not winning games, and you step down a division and you tinker with players, but there's still, it's not been a winning team, has it? So it is hard, and I imagine there's probably some real hefty budgets there, Tom, with some of the clubs you speak about, and I'm sure Hungerford's won't be at the top 2 or 3 in that league. So again, what they can recover out of the season, hopefully a playoff place, and keep everyone interested and excited, and that chance of getting back up to the south again.
Excellent stuff. They was sad to have to report this, but there was a break-in at the club this week, which is always frustrating, angry, all those words. It's one of those things that just doesn't. It just makes everybody angry, and I'm not sure what you can. There's not much you can do to stop these things if people want to get in. But if anybody has anything, any way they can help or support Hungerford in recovering from that, I know they would certainly appreciate it. And you can jump on their website or get in contact with them. I'm sure all help would be very, very welcome. I want to talk FA Youth Cup in just a minute, but I do have a message from Ellis Woods, which I've just put up on the screen. He says, "Afternoon, been listening in the office." Hopefully he's got it loudly blaring to everybody who is listening, and they're wondering what on earth they're going on about. Not sure about that shirt, Tom. We'll get you a Barks one next time you head over to East Berkshire. Now, there's two things I want to pick up here. Firstly, I'm wearing a Caversham United women's shirt. Why do I know it's a Caversham United women's shirt? Because it's got the FIB logo on the back, which was something I was going to do at some point. I will just show you. Bear with me. I have got a shirt on underneath. Don't worry.
Da, 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 da. Wow, what a guy.
Put my headphones back on. There we go. You see, just there. Just on
Brilliant.
Nicely placed on the arse. Which is, yeah. Which I don't know what that says.
Your own... yeah. Insert your own comment there accordingly.
Yes.
That's a great shirt, that, isn't it?
It's a fantastic shirt. They very kindly sent us one over. And I always get confused. Ellis always refers to Berks County as Berks, and I don't know how I feel about this. I've always had a problem with him talking about them like this, and I don't mind bringing it up on the podcast now. They're the Swords. That's what you call them, the Swords or Bark. Here he is. Right, he's here to defend himself. Shall I let him on?
Tom, Berks County. They're Berks.
County. They're county. Well, they're not Berks. You can't call a team Berks. It's entirely wrong. He's here. Hello, Ellis.
How you doing? Can you hear me okay? I'm in a shared office. So I don't know how good the volume's going to be. You're all good. How are you doing, mate? Yeah, all good. loving the arse shirt. It's nice.
It's a bit like all those years ago when Arsenal had. Do you remember when they had that shirt with Arsenal written on the bottom of the back of the shirt? It seemed wildly inappropriate. So
very much Berks County, mate. Definitely not Berkshire. It's Berks County.
Berks. Anyway, Ellis, how are you doing?
Notts County, isn't it? Notts County.
Yeah, that's how it works.
You don't call them Notts.
Exactly.
You don't call them Notts.
No.
What do you? Well, it's weird. Like we've got because the club split like junior senior, and then they were merged to make Berks County. So previously it was Sunning Hill Saints and Bracknell Rovers. They were the Swords. So it's because it's like developed over time. That they've got like various different naming conventions. But yeah, they seem to go down well with the kids being called County, just County.
Do you know what? I'm going to roll back on this whole thing. It's your football club. You call it what you like.
Not my football club. I'm just manager. But yeah.
Ellis, are you getting any sleep?
No. Very much sleep deprived. No, it's not too bad. I'm in a really privileged position that he's feeding naturally. So I'm off the hook a little bit, but still like a mind blowing experience. Yeah,
I imagine you right now. Obviously, if people are just tuning in, you haven't tuned into a dad's podcast, but just bear with us for a minute. You feel completely useless, don't you, while all that's going on?
I am a glorified cheerleader at home. Like I said to Libby last night that I'm there for comedy effect and comfort. I'm not here for anything functional at the moment, which is a nice. It's an okay place to be. Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
But listening in, really good show. Well done, mate.
Cheers. Well, we just thought sometimes I know when a few people aren't available, sometimes it's fun to do one of these and throw it out. They get you out of your comfort zone and see what happens. Berks County, good start to the season.
Yeah,
let's get down to it.
Yeah, no, I don't really, try and let the results do the talking, Tom. But yeah, no, it's been a good start, boys. We're just enjoying it. Like we did the same last year. We had a good start, an okay middle, lost a few games, and naturally, like squads change and people move on because of X, Y, and Z or whatever. But then picked up towards the end. We're just approaching it as just enjoy it and see where it takes us.
You've certainly managed to pick up a goal scorer at the very least. Nick Thumwood, 5 goals in one game at one point. He looks like he scored 12 in 10 now. So
yeah, I mean we're really blessed. We've got a really good squad. Like the whole squad is a good squad for our level, and we're very blessed and we manage it well. And we him, Les, Luke, Sam, Ollie Brown, Ollie Graham. We've got a really good group of a mix as well of like senior and young lads. It's a good squad, mate. Though it's hard managing everyone, and but it's good. We're enjoying it.
Excellent. It doesn't look like you're going to fill the 1 to 10 goals ratio this year. It's very much more normal scorelines for Berks County, but that probably speaks to the competitiveness of Division 1, I guess.
Yeah, it's really like it's such a tough division to get out of. Like, yeah, really tough division to get out. Sorry, I'm just seeing notifications pop up. Didn't expect that. As a division, like, you don't know what you're coming up against. Players can sign anyone, obviously, up until the end of March. Different teams have different relationships with teams at a higher level, so it's very much like step 7, like what's the word? Where you dual edging, for example, is a really big thing. We've got a couple of teams in our division that are throwing a lot of money at it and making it really difficult. Just because, like, I think there was one lad that signed a contract this week at another club because
Amersham Town.
He's banging them in. Yeah, he's scoring loads of goals, and I think they probably learnt from the Basingstoke thing where there was a young lad that got picked up and wasn't on a contract, and away he goes, and you get nothing for it. So,
yeah,
if we were in a similar situation, I think every club would do the same, right?
It's a really interesting one because I saw that tweet and I saw a lot of pushback about a player signing a contract at step 6. But the reality is, you can sign a contract and it might only be a £5 a week.
Yeah, 100%.
But you sign a contract and you have to get paid for it. You have to get paid for that player to break that contract.
I think it's really important to protect assets. I think from what I remember, I think Bracknell did it with Seb.
Yes, but I was going to go back further than that because I was part of a group of 4 supporters that got Sam Barrett on a contract before he went to Maidenhead United, and I think we were paying £20 each a month.
Yeah,
4 of us paying that so that Sam had a contract with the full understanding, and Sam signed that contract. And I don't think I'm speaking out of term, and I think Sam would back this. I think it was purely so that Bracknell got something for Sam. It was never the intention to keep Sam there against his will.
Yeah, it's not to tie them back or to hold people back at all. Like, it's just smart.
It's a way to get. It's a way to get something for that player when they inevitably get picked up, of which there will be people looking at that lad, and especially now they made a big deal of him signing a contract. So,
100%, they're not silly. They're doing the right thing.
I seem to remember in the old days, back when I was a bit more around the Hellenic League, I think there used to be a list of contracted players that would get sent to clubs higher up on request. That was something that used to happen as well. I don't. That's only hearsay. I can't say that for absolute certain, but I just remember that. But but it doesn't seem an unreasonable thing to do, and that's a really interesting aspect of this podcast, of being able to talk to you about that, because the idea of having a contract at step 6 in the outset seems ludicrous, but actually we're saying maybe not such a terrible idea.
No, not at all. Yeah, I mean, look at the players that have gone on from non-league clubs to go and produce, at a higher level. Connor Hall was at Ascot as a junior, was at Binfield as an even more junior. I get slated for him not making my Allied Counties team. I was doing one of those teams. It pops up every few years when it sort of says he was at Binfield. His brother's at obviously Newcastle.
Yes,
he was at Binfield. Like there's loads of players that come through those non-league routes.
Let's just refer to the elephant in the room as well, that Neil could well be sitting in a golden office had Max Kilman gone to Napoli. All of that's Neil it probably doesn't know. He's certainly not going to reveal whether there was a sell-on clause and how much it was, but let's assume that there was. That would have been an awful lot of money, and eventually still could, assuming that sell-on clause is still part of his contract. I have no idea, but Neil, you can, I'm not really asking you a question here, but let's just say Maidenhead United could have been significantly better off the back of a non-league footballer. Shall
I do a bit of avoidance with this one by pointing out one who's playing in the Premier League and playing very well, Matty Cash, who played Allied Counties football for Maidenhead as well. So that was that was one that got away in terms of not putting someone on a contract. I mean, players develop at different levels, don't they? I don't recall getting to many or any Allied Counties games at the time, if I'm honest.
That youth team, that youth team was brilliant, though.
Was good, though. Yeah,
I used to come up against them I was doing Binfield's under 18s at the time. And when you got drawn against Maidenhead in the League Cup, because we were always south, we never got promoted to the Prem.
Yeah.
We were always like second, and Bracknell would come down, and it was really hard. But when you get drawn Maidenhead United, you were like, oh, here we go. Like, it's a very, very strong. That academy group that Aaron used to run was really good.
Because that was
a good crop.
That was you still see that the grassroots non-league football around here is littered with brilliant players from that team. You see those names pop up all the time.
Etienne was good.
Yeah,
there was a few. There was brothers. One went on to play in my under 21s at Binfield for a while. Hit the forward, and his brother now plays for Hollyport, I think.
Yes,
not JC. Fabian plays.
Fabian,
for Hollyport.
That's right.
Really good squad. Just an unreal squad. Good team.
It was good. It was a good crop. Yeah,
they did very well, and as I say, the non-league is littered with players from that team. Ellis, just before we let you go and we wrap up, Humpty Paul Smithson said, "I see George Gould is at Berks County, good solid player." Would you agree, or would you going to dig him out live?
No, he's brilliant. Like George, we made a few signs in the summer. We looked at bringing in a few more experienced heads. Like we have got, like, historically have had a really young side coming from either the players or groups of my black book of young players that have come through from when I was at Binfield or whatever, and Simo's at Bracknell. So we've got a good base of knowledge of like young players. And over the last few years, I think 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, I don't think players of George's ilk would have signed for Berks County. I don't think they would have been that pull. We've had a good couple of seasons in the division, and it was like, well, how can we improve? And it probably is a bit of experience. And George has been around. He was at Windsor for a very long time. Good leader, solid defender. Good in the dressing room, professional. He's good. Or as professional as you can be at step 6,
We were just talking about the sort of professionalization of the lower leagues, and that does seem to be something that's coming down more and more. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I guess we will find out. It's not a damn thing any of us can do about it. So. On that happy note, I think we should probably wrap up there. We've had a good hour having a chat. We've had plenty of people joining in. We've had plenty of questions and some really interesting bits and pieces and tidbits. I think it's tidbits. I like tidbits. So we will wrap it up there. Ellis, thanks very much, mate. We'll let you get back to work.
See you later.
I'll get. Just while Ellis is there, just very quickly. Ellis is the one we have to thank for all of our new designy, flashy things. He regularly sends me bits and pieces, and I just run with it. And hopefully, it is all still within the spirit that you designed it. So I'm really pleased with those, mate. Thank you.
It's good, mate. I really. It's nice to see. Well, I enjoy it. When you message me stuff and say, "What do you think of this?" I go, "Oh, I'd like to do this to this," and you say, "Yeah, okay, cool." So that's a nice way to work on it.
I've got another one for you later, so watch out.
Yeah, ping it over. See you later.
Cheers, Alice. Thanks, mate. Bye. Right, Neil, it's time to wrap up and say goodbye. Thanks, everybody, for coming on. Our guests today, hopefully I can remember everybody. Andrew Batt, we had from Wokingham and Embrook. We had Jordan Blake from Woodley United. We've had Ellis Woods from Berks. And we've had Dan Walkley from Tadley Caliva. And we have had Neil Maskell from Maidenhead United, and you've had me as your host, Tom Canning. We will say goodbye. If you have enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe. If you've enjoyed watching the podcast, subscribe on YouTube. You can subscribe across all of your various podcast channels. And if you would like to send us a message or get in touch, you can email us on podcast@footballinberkshire.co.uk. Neil, goodbye, mate. See you soon. Get well soon.
Thanks for having me. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Cheers, everybody. See you later.